Okay, so we'll get started with Ian today. This will be a yoga prop heavy class. You'll definitely want a bolster, a block maybe, and definitely a strap or something like it. So you can always use like a long t-shirt or a towel or something if you don't have a strap. And then in terms of a bolster alternative, like a big pillow could work. King size pillows are great. If you have that, some of us have pillows on our sofas that are about the right size. So have your strap near the hips, a block, 2 blocks near the hips, and a bolster. So you want everything on the side of the mat because we're going to start lying down and you don't want to have to get back up if you don't need to. So blocks by the sides, bolster and strap. So come down onto your back. Bring the soles of the feet together and the knees wide. Here's where you can use blocks. You don't have to. Some people prefer not to. But what we're doing is filling in the space between the knees and the floor underneath you. So maybe the blocks go underneath the knees. They could go more in toward the center of the body. So underneath the thighs and the calves. Just depends on where you feel like it's the most supportive place. You want to feel like there's an opening happening on the inner thighs and the hips, but no pulling because you're going to be here for a while and the intensity starts to build over time. So if there's any discomfort now, make it easier so that you can just be here without thinking about it. Bring the arms down by the sides, close the eyes. Either turn the palms to face up and leave the arms there, or maybe you bring the hands on the body. So you could do left hand on the heart, right hand on the belly. You could do 2 hands on the belly, 2 hands on the heart. Figure out which combination is working for you. So hands on the body is great for grounding energy. So if you were just traveling or you just aren't feeling connected to the ground, then you want to bring the hands on the body. Sometimes we feel like too connected to the ground to the point where it makes us feel heavy. So arms down by the sides, palms facing up is great for receiving energy. So difference between the two, the eyes closed, take a deep breath in through the nose. Exhale out through the mouth. Long breath in through the nose. Exhale out through the mouth. One more cleansing breath like that one. Deep breath in. Exhale out through the mouth. This time, deep breath in through the nose. Back out through the nose. Keep going on your own. This is your Ujjayi breath. It's this cycle of breath, this style of breathing is what helps you feel more cleansed, refreshed. So almost like opening up the windows in the house, letting that breeze blow through. Bring the hands to the outer thighs, help the knees back together. So it's just a little bit of effort with the fingers. And then you can set the blocks off to the side. You don't need them. Grab your strap, loop the sole of the right foot into the strap. So you want to place the strap just at the top of the arch below the ball of the foot. Grab each end of the strap with both hands and then slide the hands all the way back until the elbows are resting on the mat. Bring the toes down toward the face, heel goes up. There could be a bend in that right knee. Maybe it's straight. You have to figure out where you're getting the best opening in your leg. So now that you're in it, maybe it feels better if you have a deep bend in the knee, a slight bend. Maybe it feels good straight. So now you're opening up that right leg with the toes coming down toward the face, just a little bit, not too much effort, and the heel going up. You get that length in the calf, Achilles tendon area. And you're also reversing the blood flow in the right leg, which is a good thing to do every once in a while. In fact, it's something you can do daily. That also changes your energy in the body too. It's stabilizing to have the legs go up and the blood reverse. Left foot could stay on the mat. So notice how your lower back feels. It has plenty of space with the left foot on the mat. Check out what happens when you extend that left leg forward with the heel down on the mat. If the heel's lifted, you don't want to hang out this way for yin. So the foot needs to be down on the mat, either heel down, toes up, or sole of the foot down on the mat, knee bent. And if the leg extended out in front of you takes away too much space from the lower back, then you skip that and bring the sole of the left foot in so it's on the mat. Then you'll grab both ends of the strap with the left hand. Take your bolster. You want it the long way, all the way up against the right hip. So it's touching the right hip. Have it there. Have a block nearby. You may or may not need to use it. Then grab both ends of the strap with the right hand. Left arm comes out to the side. So you want that left shoulder and left hip on the mat the whole time. You can choke up on the strap. Don't go as far as you can go. Turn the right toes out to the right. So there's that rotation in the hip socket that we're going for here. And then start to extend the right leg out to the right. Bolster's there for support. If you feel like it's bringing the leg down too low and you want to bring something a little bit higher, that's where you can take the block, stack it on top of the bolster, bring that all the way up against the thigh, and start to let the leg go out to the side. If that left hip and left shoulder start to lift, then we've gone too far with that right leg. You want to be able to keep that part of the left side of the body down on the mat so that when you reach the right leg away from you, you feel like there's a spreading on the top of the pelvis. So you're getting a hip opening on that right hip, but you might also feel that happen, and that can be a really nice sensation on the top of the hips. Leg is still open. We're still getting into the legs here too. So it's that right leg that's opening. And now with this strap, the way I have it is my right hand's over my right elbow. So my arm's in a bit of is at an angle. And this is comfortable for me. I'll let you figure out where that hand's comfortable for you or where that arm position's comfortable for you. And if you feel like you don't need any props and it's not allowing you to go low enough, you don't have to use them. Just make sure you're keeping this shape in an easy place. So there isn't much effort going into it. That's what's nice about the props. It kind of just holds you in place. You still get that opening. You can forget about the time, just being present. Last couple breaths here, long ones. Press out through that right foot so you engage the muscles in the right leg. Bring the right leg back up to the top, and then you can unloop the sole of the right foot. Feet on the mat. Bring the bolster and whatever else you're using over to the left side of the body, just so it's there now. Get it set up, and then you'll grab the strap, rest the head on the mat, loop the sole of the left foot into the strap. And we're starting with the leg straight up on this side. Right foot still on the mat. Grab both ends of the strap with both hands. Slide the hands back so you can just rest the elbows on the mat. Toes come down a little bit, heel goes up. So you have that foot flexed. Maybe there's a bend in that left knee. Play with that. Find your shape here. Might be a little different than the first leg. Right foot can stay where it is. You can also slide that right foot forward. See how that feels on this side. So that right leg's already been opened up. Maybe it feels a little bit longer. It also will probably be easier to feel like the top of the right thigh is going down toward the mat instead of lifting up away from the mat. You stick with your Ujjayi breath. And we'll start to reverse the blood flow in the left leg. Take one more deep breath in through the nose. Slowly back out through the nose. Grab both ends of the strap. Make sure the bolster is all the way up against the left hip. If you're using the block, you can bring that up against the thigh. Grab both ends of the strap with the left hand. Right arm reaches out to the side. Look at the left toes. Turn them out to the left. So the toes go out, the heel goes in. And then let the left leg extend out to the side. Go slow. See how that feels on the inner thigh, the hip. Keep that right hip heavy on the mat, right shoulder heavy on the mat. So you're reaching away from that left leg. And that's where you get into that spot where it feels really nice. Maybe the hand starts to pull away from the foot until it's right over the elbow, if that feels good and supportive in your body. Last couple breaths, make them long. Match the length of the inhale to the length of the exhale. Press out through that left foot. Slowly bring the left leg back up to center. Set the strap off to the side. Bring both knees in toward the chest. Can rock side to side a little bit. Head still down on the mat. Set the feet back down onto the mat. Roll over to your right side. Use the left hand to bring yourself up to seated. So we were on our backs for quite a while. We'll be off our backs now, probably for the rest of class until Shavasana. So this next one, you don't need any props. You're going to come to hands and knees facing the side of the mat any way that you can still see the screen. So come to hands and knees, hands off the mat, knees on the mat. And then once you get this, if you're on a hard surface, you're going to need a little bit of extra padding. So you'll bring in the mat a third of the way-ish on each side. If you're on carpet, you're probably fine. And then bring the knees back down onto the mat. You need to separate the knees wider to get them on the mat. And then bring the knees even wider, wherever you're comfortable. turn the toes out. So inner edges of the feet are down on the ground. And then from here, you'll probably be able to get the knees a little bit wider. So we're coming into frog pose. It's not as deep as you can go. And then you'll notice the body's trying to make this easier, which might mean that the hips are going behind the knees or the hips are going ahead of the knees. If you need that, go for it. But if it feels okay to have the hips in line with the knees, then do that. You can stay up on the hands just like this. If you feel like you want to put more weight on the hip opening and the inner thighs, you could come down to the forearms. And I might be up way higher than you. If that's the case and you want to go all the way down and your body does that, go for it. The hips have to be pretty low to get the chest down. Don't force it. You're just going to wherever your hip opening is. This is frog pose. It's not the easiest shape for some of us. You can close the eyes, let the head and the neck go. And if you do have props lying around and you're in a position where you feel like they can help, grab them, maybe underneath the chest or the head. You'll start to lift the head up, walk the hands in. If your knees are pretty far apart, you won't be able to lift the chest that high. You'll have to start inching the knees closer together until you can come back to hands and knees. If the mat's folded, extend it back out the regular way and then turn to face the top of the mat, still on hands and knees. You can do this next pose without a bolster. If you have one, grab it, bring it the wide way in front of you. You want to make sure there's at least a third of the mat ahead of you, maybe more. Bring the hands down ahead of the bolster, knees behind the bolster. Bring the elbows down to the mat and walk the elbows so that the backs of the arms, the triceps are touching the bolster. Hands are down on the mat. And then start to walk the feet back, set the hips down onto the mat, tops of the feet to the mat. And now you're in Sphinx pose with the chest reaching forward. And you'll feel with the bolster, it just keeps the chest lifted. Hips are still down touching the mat, but the tail's pointing back toward the heels. And then you look down the bridge of the nose. You can close the eyes. Just try not to collapse the chest. Keep it lifted. So it's those bottom tips, it's the shoulder blades that are pushing the chest forward. And what's nice about this shape, especially following the sequence that we've done so far, is the legs want to be straight at this point, especially after frog pose. And this can be a nice opening on the top of the hips again, while also starting to get into the spine with the back bend. So more sensation than usual in the lower body with this. You can start to let the head and the neck go. Bring the hands to the mat, come back to hands and knees. So lift the chest and the head, walk the knees in, coming back to tabletop, and keep the shoulders stacked over the wrists, hips over the knees. Let's do a few rounds of cat-cow breath. Go slow. So on the inhale, reach the heart forward, lift the tail. On the exhale, rounding the whole spine. Be gentle with this one. Keep going on your own, eyes open or closed. Start to finish the cycle that you're on, meaning back in a neutral spine. Take your time. Take the bolster, bring it the long way in front of you. So it's right in front of you. You're still on hands and knees. And then big toes together, knees apart. You want to walk the knees up so they just touch the edge, the back edge of the bolster. So not back between the thighs, because we want to be able to lie down onto the bolster. So start to lower the chest and the head. Once you get down low enough, turn the head one direction and rest the head on top of the bolster. And you can certainly do child's pose without a bolster. So if you don't have one, skip it. If you do, it's kind of nice. Gives you a little bit of a cushion, keeps the chest lifted. Hips can be higher if the knees need more space. So listen to them to guide you. If your knees are fine, then bring the hips back toward the heels. You'll have the head going in one direction. I'll let you know when we're about halfway through the hold so you can turn the head the other way if the neck's okay with that. If you have the head turned in one direction, you could lift it, turn it the other way, see how that works. The neck's uncomfortable, go back the other way. Let's lift the head up, come back up to hands and knees. You'll leave the bolster right where it is for this one. You'll just back the knees up so they're behind the bolster. So keep both hands down on the mat. Bring the knees over to the left so you can bring this right hip down onto the mat. You want the right hip to come all the way up against the bolster. Knees are bent. You could put a blanket between the knees if you want extra padding. So look forward over the top of the bolster, start to walk the elbows down to the mat. Once the head gets low, see what it's like to turn the head to the right. That's bringing the twist all the way up toward the neck. If it's too much, then turn the head to the left and keep the nose going in the same direction as the knees. You could start with the twist, and then if it's too much on the neck, go the other way whenever you want. If you have the head turned all the way around, lift it, turn it to the left so that the nose and the knees are going in the same direction. And you'll just rest here, feeling that release on the neck. Start to walk the hands in so you can get the hands on the mat. Lift the head and the chest away from the bolster. Looking at the bolster, bring the right hand over to the left. Turn around so you're seated on the mat with the bolster behind you, and then keep bringing the knees over to the left. So now you're coming onto the left hip. That right hand comes forward, left hand goes on the other side of the bolster. If you're using padding between the knees, have that ready. Lengthen the spine forward. Start to walk the elbows down toward the mat. And then once the head's about to go down, maybe you turn the head to the right and rest the right side of the head down onto the bolster. If it's too much, you can always go the other way. Start to settle in. Doing your twist on the other side. If you have the head turned all the way around, lift it, turn it to the right, rest the left side of the head down onto the bolster. If you're already there, stay there. Start to walk the hands in so the hands are on the mat. Lift the head and the chest away from the bolster. Set the bolster off to the side. You'll come to seated with the legs out in front of you. So you're facing forward on your mat. come to a cross-legged seat. So trying to cross at mid shin if you can, shifting side to side. You can always prop the hips up on a blanket or a bolster if you'd like. Have a block in front of you. Have the other one nearby too. So you could either do 2 blocks stack, which could be nice, or maybe you end up doing 1 block on the medium height or a block on the lowest height. You'll just see where you are. Sometimes it's nice to start with something higher and they can always go lower than that. So you'll figure out the distance once we get set up. So reach the arms forward. We're going to get into the shoulders, palms facing up. Bring the left arm on top of the right arm. Find eagle arms. So backs of the forearms together. You could, if it feels like the shoulders are open enough, take the right fingers inside the heel of the left hand. And then bring the elbows so they're in line with the shoulders, hands over the elbows. And then start to hinge forward. Not focusing so much on the hips, it's more the upper body. So here's where you can rest the elbows on top of the block. If you didn't get the blocks in the right spot, then maybe you adjust and well, you definitely want to adjust and move those and start to come into the shape. If it's too high, adjust. You can always go lower. Let the head and the neck go. But it's nice to have the elbows, and you can do this without anything underneath the elbows, certainly. But when you have, if you do have something underneath the elbows, you'll feel how you can kind of get a little bit more width across the upper back. Maybe there's some leverage with the resting of the elbows. Make sure you're in a place that feels easy for you. Just so you feel like there isn't very much effort holding you here in this pose. And you'll start to lift the head back up, slowly come back up to seated. You can keep the eagle arms, getting the head right over the hips, and then release the arms down by the sides. Take some shoulder rolls, go in one direction, and go the other way. Bring the hands back behind you, lean back. So remember which shin you have in front. Separate the feet wide to the outer edges of the mat and let the knees go side to side like windshield wipers. So a little bit of a counter pose before we switch over to the other side. That was a bit of a hip opening. as well as the shoulders. I just wanted you to bring more attention to the shoulders since that was the main focus. So come back to a cross-legged seat, this time other shin in front. So you're switching sides, maybe shift side to side so you feel even on the sit bones, and then reach the arms forward, palms facing up. This time we bring the right arm on top of the left arm, find eagle arms. So backs of the forearms come together, maybe left fingertips inside of the heel of the right hand. Elbows lift in line with the shoulders, hands over the elbows. Start to hinge forward. Think about reaching forward with the forearms more than anything else. And then maybe the elbows start to land down onto the blocks. Let the head and the neck go, close the eyes. You're back in on the other side, opening up the shoulders and the hips. You'll start to bring the head and the chest back up. Keep the eagle arms if you can. Then release the arms down by the sides. Take some shoulder rolls. Switch the direction. Set the blocks off to the side if you're using them. Bring the hands back behind you. Separate the feet wide. Move the knees side to side. Coming back to your windshield wipers. And then you'll come back to seated, this time with the legs straight out in front of you. We'll do one more seated forward fold just to open up the back side of the body. Blocks could be nice if you have them. You can bring them outside of the legs by the knees and then start to fold forward. Rounding of the spine's okay. I like using the blocks as armrests. You can just let the elbows and the forearms relax on them. They can be at whatever height makes the most sense. Let the head and the neck go. Be totally relaxed in this forward fold. If you're having any lower back issues, another option for your forward fold is taking a bolster, bringing that all the way up against the abdomen. And you can even stack blocks so that you have something to rest the forehead on. And that might be a little bit more supportive of the lower back. If you're fine where you are, stay where you are. Start to come back up to seated. Set your blocks off to the side. We're coming into Shavasana. You can do it without props. If you do want to use props, a good one for today could be taking the bolster the wide way underneath the knees. Make sure you have enough mat behind you so that when you lie down, the head's on the mat. Come on down onto your back, head down on the mat, arms down by the sides, extend the legs out in front of you. Let the feet go wider than hip width distance, the toes turn out, arms down by the sides, close the eyes. Shavasana, letting go of that breath control, allowing the body to go back to breathing on its own. As close as you get to complete stillness. Another option with the hands, you could leave them out to the sides, palms up, or you could place the hands on the body if you're finding extra comfort with that today. Start to wiggle the fingers and the toes. Walk the feet in, soles of the feet to the mat, knees are bent. Roll on over to your right side, cradle the head and the arm. Keep the knees bent. Take an inhale here in through the nose. Softly out through the mouth. Use the left hand to bring yourself up to seated. Comfortable seat. You might need to move that bolster or whatever you're using out of the way. Sitting up tall to close your practice, feeling that length in the spine, the connectedness of the hips down on the mat, rooted into the earth. Rise up through the crown of the head. Bring the hands together in front of you. Take a moment, bow the head, honor and acknowledge your heart and your spirit, as well as everyone around you. Bring the head back up, blink open the eyes. Namaste. Thanks so much for practicing with me today. Hope you feel better in your body, more comfortable, more open, ready for meditation, sleep, activity, whatever you needed to do. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you.